Welcome back to the channel, good friends. Brian from Apex Detail. In the last video I mentioned how heat was not your friend when it comes to paint correction. And someone made a good point. Hey, why is that a big deal? But when my car sits out in the hot sun in Florida or Arizona or Southern California and it can reach 150 degrees plus, why is that not a big deal? Well, those are two different things. A great point. I'm glad you brought that up. I will address that in today's video, so let's get right into it. Working on a rather large 1965 Pontiac Grand Prix, and because the panels are so large, this is the perfect example for me to demonstrate exactly what I'm talking about when I say heat is not your friend when it comes to paint correction. Of course, before we get started, before paint correction, you want to do your proper wash and decon. On a classic antique car, it's always going to be rinseless for us. We never want to test the gaskets and the seals on these things. After we're finished, we can see the panels are now a nice, very, very cool temperature, 57, 58 degrees tops. And that is the ambient temperature over every single panel on this vehicle. Junior here is going to start to correct the paint, and this is going to be at low speed. You'll hear the polishers not screaming and hardly any pressure. He's gripping the side of the polisher, just guiding it back and forth, and you will slowly see the temperature as he does his pattern creep higher and higher and higher. This is wherein the problem lies. The area you're correcting paint, temperatures are going to spike into the triple digits, whereas the ambient temperature of the rest of this rather large panel is 40 degrees cooler. So you're spiking temperatures in one area on one panel. And paint consists of 3 layers, all made of different materials, and they're expanding different ways. And they're only expanding in one little area. That is the stress that you're putting clear coat under. If you were under the hot sun in the Arizona heat, Florida, Southern California, the whole panel, the whole vehicle would be raising as one, and that's no problem. Painted surfaces on your vehicle consist of 3 layers. There's the primer layer, there's the color layer, there is the clear coat layer. The primer layer, which is for the most part a 1-part acrylic lacquer, some do differ, so that's not stating that all of them are that exact material. But that is the foundation layer that protects the metal or the plastic or the fiberglass or whatever it's sprayed onto, and also fills small scratches. The hump represents the area that's heated because it expands. The molecules will expand in that area. The second layer is the color coat. That is a pigmented acrylic polyurethane, and that is a different material and will expand on top of the primer layer a little bit differently. And once again, not all color layers are the acrylic polyurethane. There are different types of color coats to spray on top of the primer. But again, I'm just trying to stress that it's a different material. The top layer is, of course, the clear coat. That's what protects all layers underneath and gives it a nice gloss. We switched over from single stage to clear coat in the mid to late 80s and pretty much transitioned by the mid 90s. And this is a non-pigmented acrylic, polyurethane for the most part. Again, that differs. There are many types of clear coat. So this layer expands differently as well, and you saw the hump I drew a little bit larger. That top layer, the clear coat, will expand because it's taking more heat than the other layers underneath. The hump represented with 100 degrees with the arrows there. The surrounding areas, 58 degrees. So that's where the problem lies, and I hope that makes sense. That's the best way I can describe it. If the whole panel warms up as one, that's perfectly fine. So how do you avoid the stress in a clear coat? Well, keep the polisher moving. At the minimum, your correction speed, which is an inch every second or two. Never hover in one area, working it over and over and over again. Light pressure, keeping the polisher down, is the best way to save that clear coat or the top layer you're working on from the most stress that it's going to receive during correction. If you have any questions at all, leave them down in the comments section. This has been Brian from Apex Detail. Catch you in the next video.